Okay, yo guys, how are we doing? So I am back again. In yesterday's stream, we were basically just looking at setting up the Chakra UI theme. We wanted to get on to setting up Storybook, but that didn't quite work out in the end. I did find a fix. I'm going to go through my solutions today and what I've been working on actually since then, and I've managed to make quite a bit of progress, which is really great. So yeah, it's gonna be cool to run through things. I am just setting up a couple of things here. I'm just testing something with the chat as well, because I actually meant to update, because I did mention yesterday that I was gonna try and get rid of some of these like messages like on the side here, maybe after like a minute or so, just so it can kind of clear out that space. Doesn't matter too much, so bear with me. Let me just try and you're gonna see me like quite close up. Look, there I am. Cool. Let's try go back and see if it fixes itself. No problem if not. So I'm just going to sort out a couple of things here, just let people know we're live, and then we'll get on to doing some stuff. Oh, got that good Dow Egbert's coffee again, nice and strong. So right. Yeah, so the main theme today, we're going to be looking at, primarily at least anyway, at how I created, or how I wrote my first story for our reusable button component. So we're going to look at how I set that up in Chakra first of all, to basically follow the design. So follow the actual like dimensions, the width, height, padding, all of that stuff. And then how I've actually brought it into Storybook and use controls to allow us to look at the different states and types of the button. So it should be interesting. And default and base styles, right? That's cool. And let's pop that in. Right. I'm also going to try and move at a bit of a better pace today. I'm going to really keep an eye on that. Like I said kind of yesterday, I feel like it was kind of necessary just to kind of go through that design stuff. Maybe not, I don't know actually, but I suppose maybe it was helpful in my head for me to kind of flesh things out to myself even, just to kind of go through how I've cleared up the design file. It kind of, yeah, did help just to kind of clarify things there, but we've done that now. So I think things hopefully will be a bit more streamlined going forward. Because, you know, I think the past, like, well, not the past few, since kind of like the beginning, the streams have been kind of a bit all over the place, just because of, you know, there was a lot of different sort of decisions being made, and I was trying to figure out like what I was doing here and there. So it wasn't, you know, exactly streamlined, but that's to be expected as well. You know, I haven't got much experience live streaming either, so it's definitely been an interesting learning process. But I think going forward from here now, things should hopefully gradually become more and more streamlined, where, you know, these sessions will just be me working on stuff for the most part, so that, you know, having to skip along. But like I always say in most of my videos, that I'll make sure I pop some chapters below. I know I haven't done it for the last two. I'm actually planning to do all of that tonight. I need to catch up. I've just been playing catch up this week, so tonight I'll be getting all the chapters all sorted out and everything, so that anyone that's interested in any points of any videos, you can kind of go and get to those quicker. So, okay, we're already 12 minutes in. Well, okay, yeah, we need to kind of push on now. So, cool. Okay. Okay. Cool. I forgot to check that everything is running okay as well. I'm sure it is. Let me just get that on Twitter as well. Man, I am warm. Okay. Right. Give some people a chance to roll in as well, I suppose. Fire. Cool. Oh. Right. Apologies. All right. Okay. I'm not going to waste any more time. I'm hella warm, man. Bear with me one moment. Alright, let me sort a couple of things out quickly, guys. Bear with. Right, we're back. Make sure my cam is all good. No, looks a bit washed out, but it's fine. I'm just gonna let's get that focus off. Cool. Are we good? All right, yeah, let's get on with things now. We're gonna push on through. So we've looked at Storybook already, about what it is. Quick recap. So it's an open source tool for developing UI components in isolation for the most popular JavaScript frameworks: React, Vue, Angular, and more. So it makes building, starting UIs organized and efficient. So far, my experience with it, I can vouch for this. I've definitely found it very it's just a very efficient way to kind of build things out, especially when we're looking at design systems and building bigger kind of frameworks around UIs. That seems to be the main, it's kind of target audience, or like the main use case for it is when you're sort of building something of scale. And so obviously the question is, why am I using it? Personally, I've actually, I think it was because the first time I saw it, I was like, okay, this is a cool tool. I'd like to get into that at some point. And then I just, tested out on my last version of the portfolio. But in this one, I really wanted to delve into it just because I think it's a great idea. I think what they've come up with, they're really solving a problem. And the more I've looked into design systems and some of the problems that you can run into when you're building these things, I see how Storybook are solving them. And I just thought it'd be really cool to get some hands-on experience, myself, even if it's for a small project. But I think where, the power lies with Storybook for this project, specifically, is essentially, because the way I like to think of this, right, this isn't just a one-off project for me. It isn't okay, I'm going to do this thing and then I might maintain it sometime in the future. But no, it's this is my portfolio, right? So it's going to be quite frequently updated and I'll be hopefully adding some features to it. But one of the other key points as well is that I'm going to be making this open source, and so I'm going to be allowing for other people to be contributing their ideas to this project. And so from that kind of standpoint, I think it's a great way to give people a general idea of how the UI, what the UI is composed of. You can go into Storybook, it's its own environment, and you can see all of these components in isolation, and it just helps someone coming in. Of course we have Figma, but with Storybook, it gives a greater context to the developer experience in terms of components. Of course, we have all the styles in Figma, and all of that kind of the single source of truth. Everything is there for you in Figma. That's fine. But here we have a kind of a slightly more interactive and programmatic way to kind of look at the different states of these parts of the UI. For a button, for example, you can you can do quite a lot with it, and I think from the documentation standpoint as well, it's really good. So without further ado, I'm going to dive into what I've been up to. Also, this thing hates me. So I don't know why this keeps happening. So basically, I keep like that. It's just not cool. I need to change the name of this. Sorry, my bad. This is always the culprit for Next crashing. It doesn't crash in other projects, but Next is very sensitive with this thing. So, you know, it's got to be done. But every time I open up VS Code, it always, like, I don't know why, it kind of just assumes. Oh, my bad. Projects. And then, sorry, I'm not even thinking right now. Yeah, I'm on like 4 hours sleep right now. If you were in the stream yesterday, you would have heard like the night before I got the same amount of sleep. The night before, that was my fault. I take full blame for that. I was like learning GraphQL API, like how to basically create a GraphQL server, how to work with Apollo client, and all of that stuff. And that was really interesting, actually. And I'm going to be definitely delving more into that. Hopefully on here as well, I'll get to potentially work with that. So we're back in. Okay, so I'm going to show you what I have been up to. So yesterday, where were we at? I think we essentially ended on me trying to like get the component to show up in Storybook, and I was having a hard time doing that. That wasn't fun, but we're all good. We're all good. Managed to solve what was up, and I'm actually going to show that now, like for the purpose of, like I mentioned before, having like some kind of visual documentation, but also just to keep people in the loop of what I'm actually doing as well. I think it's just, yeah, it's kind of helpful to just show how I kind of overcame some issues and stuff. So let's do that. So essentially what was happening was, let me find the file. So I've got my components folder here. I actually had like an index.js where I'd created a button and I'd exported it into, and I just exported it as a default function, and then I was bringing it into here, forgetting that we're actually customizing Chakra's default button anyway, so we didn't have to create our own. Because the way I'd usually do it is like, let's imagine this in like in a different file. Let's imagine this file's empty, right? So I'm just gonna go like, and like what I would actually do is like export, I don't know, let's say export, what we get here. Okay, so we like import the button here, and I'd be like export const, and it would be something like styled button equals, and then we would just use Chakra's button. So we can use an implicit return because we're not returning anything else, we're just returning this. And we could literally just do like some props, so we could allow props to be passed down to it, and like that would kind of be that. So we'd kind of just do it like this, and that's how I was doing it before, and then that would get picked up in this. So I'd import the styled button from that file, obviously not from Chakra, and what was happening at that point, it wasn't really important that I went through that, but it's fine. What was actually happening was I realized eventually, because I ran into this problem before, I just couldn't figure out how I solved it, which is, like I said, while I'm doing this. So if we go into this Storybook folder here, we've got main and preview. So this is the config for Storybook. This is like any configuration that you'll need to do. This is sort of like where you come to do it, essentially. So you've got main. And so in the main, you specify things like the paths for where Storybook is going to look for your stories. I think it will also give us some greater context to actually start up Storybook so we can see what's going on. So let's get that running. And whilst that's running, we can look at the rest of this file. So you've also got add-ons. Add-ons will come to maybe actually, I think at some point in this we should get round to it. So later on in this video, hopefully, or this live stream, we'll get to talking about add-ons, and we'll look at the documentation of the different kind of add-ons you can have, and we will install ones that we're concerned with. And yeah, some Webpack stuff. So all of this stuff here, the emotion stuff, this is for us to be able to use Chakra as it's sort of built on top of that. So that's all that this is kind of doing. I don't know exactly like what it's doing, but I know that we need this here basically for Chakra to work efficiently, or for it to essentially see the styles. Okay, so that's working now. So what I'm going to quickly just do, what I'm actually going to do is, so I'm going to get rid of this other window. Lovely. Okay, so here we are. We've got our Storybook environment. So obviously you've got, I went through it in the last video, you've got some default stories that they've written for you. It's got some cool things here. You can change some colors on some stuff. You can change the label. So I'm just going to be like, yo. So you can do stuff like that as well, which is cool. Change the sizes as well. And then we've got our component here. So we've got it in this kind of like nested folder system, and I will show you how we can do that as well. But for now, let's just, look at this. We've got, yeah, we essentially have this environment, right? And what was happening before was that we just weren't seeing this button here. We weren't seeing anything. And the problem was, it was the fact that, so for anyone as well that is like, that comes to working with Storybook, and maybe you've had this problem before, or you might encounter it, because I definitely have. Something to note is the way Storybook is set up is that once you like install it the first time, so once you do like npx init sb, it's obviously going to install the .storybook folder for you. It's also going to install this stories folder, which is what these this is how we see these stories that were like written, like pre-built. That's how we see them, is that they were actually in their own folder. And so we could, in theory, we could just have all of our stories in here, like, and we could reference the file, or like even still we could take this button.stories.js, because this isn't reliant, because typically you would have, this would bring in the component, right, from like, your components folder or whatever, but we haven't actually built out our button in that way yet. We haven't actually, or we haven't at least got it existing in any other place other than like the Chakra theme, essentially. Like, we can pull it into places, but we haven't actually created our own like primary or secondary button. That's, we can do this all with props for sure, but we haven't actually got anything other than what we can bring in through Chakra, which is fine for this use case. But yeah, when I was just talking about, the fact that we could actually just drag that into the stories, we could. The reason I haven't, and like, it doesn't matter for this example, but a lot of the time you will have like a component that's in a file already, right? So let's say, don't know, like a card component, and perhaps like that, perhaps it's a newsletter card and it uses like a button, but it also uses an input, and so those are obviously two reusable styles. And you're essentially like building this, slightly more complex component now, and you want to, maybe want to test that, or at the very least you want to visually document that, right, in Storybook. And so usually what would happen is that, like, here we got components, not a new file, but a new folder, and let's just say we had like this card one, right? And this card folder had like an index.js that had some stuff in it. You could just do like, so in stories, you could just say card.stories.js. And so for anyone that's wondering like why we have to write this, this is basically like how Storybook understands these files as things to bring into the environment. So you have to have a .stories.js file. Otherwise it won't work. That's the only way it can recognize it. And I've got, I think, is it material theme icons, something like that. So that helps me out to clearly, obviously, see that it's being recognized by Storybook. So essentially here, we could then, like, whatever we export from here, we could import it into here. The issue with this, for me personally, it isn't actually generally like an issue, but for me personally, in terms of the actual file system, I like to kind of keep things as like neat as I can, at least. And so for me, like if I come back to this and, let's say we create quite a few different simple and complex components, for me, it just gets like rapidly out of sync, and suddenly, I've got something over here, but then the story for it's down in the stories folder. And perhaps, for some people, it might make sense just to have all the stories in the stories folder. But for me, I kind of prefer the idea of coupling things. So for that card folder, I would actually have the stories in that folder as well, just so they're coupled together. For me, like just in terms of like a mental model, it just makes more sense to me to kind of have them in that same bit. So yeah, I mean, it's down to preference, I'd probably say, maybe. But like for me personally, I just know that I'm definitely more comfortable doing it that way around. But the point I've taken a very long time to come back to is Storybook assumes that all the stories are going to be written in this stories folder, which is what all of this is. So, essentially, it's going to look for anything that's nested within stories and nested within a few other folders within stories. So it allows you to go a few levels deep. And then, it will, if the file extension matches .mdx or, JS, JSX, TS, or TSX, then, it will pick that up. It will recognize it. Sorry, hit my mic. So the issue I was having is that I was actually doing, I had this button .stories.js here, and I'll actually just show you. If I hit save, we'll see what happens. I'm going to hit save. I'm going to go back to here. I'm going to refresh that. And we're still getting it for some weird reason. Oh no, actually, hold on. We're actually going to see it. Yeah, we do see it. Let's go back to the code. So let's see. Weird. Well, it works now. So I'm gonna argue with that. But typically, like before, essentially, like when I didn't have this like path in here, it just wasn't looking for anything in components. So it wasn't finding this button.stories.js. But once I added this in, it found it, and like all was well. I need to add a comma there. So that's just a note to something to be aware of when you're setting up your config. Apart from that, we've also got the preview.js. I can't remember how much depth I ran through it with this in the other video, but essentially, I've just got some things here I probably don't need right now. So essentially, this decorator allows us to use the chakra theme. So we're bringing in the custom theme. It allows us to use a chakra theme with all the custom styles and stuff. It will pick it up. Without this, it won't pick up any of the chakra themes. So we have to create this decorator that allows us to use the chakra theme around it. So that's just, again, another note to be aware of. Cool. So what we did, this was the main work that I was kind of doing at first. And we'll jump back into Storybook in a second, but we're just going to look at the theme for now. So, what I mainly worked on was the button. I'm also going to just mention here all of this code. So all of this code is through the button from like here up until here. So that's a good, like, how many lines? 13. Like, that's almost like 80 lines of code. Which is obviously fine, but this is likely to grow out, this like theme file. It's likely to keep growing. So I kind of had ideas about this. The chakra team also recommend it to actually split things up. So we might do that today. I mean, we'll see how we get on. I might not do it right away, but we'll definitely be splitting out this code into a separate file, and we'll just bring it in. It'll be much easier to kind of just view our theme and see what we have there, because it's a bit difficult already to see like what's on what level, etc. So yeah, just to note that I do plan to kind of move this elsewhere. So in terms of the actual button, so this is the great thing about the chakra theme. It allows us to extend our theme essentially. So it allows us to extend the component styles as well, which is the main thing. So here, like, it enables you to have a base style. So this is things like, I mean, this could be anything, but mainly, you know, it would be font weight, text transform, and like border radius. And this I got from the docs as well. I just kind of followed that. And so this is where we started looking to the Figma file. Sorry, I'm on my wrong page. Cool. So let's have a look. Yeah, so let's take like this button, for example. So this is where like we would go into this button. Let me just see where I'm at. Yeah, so we check things like, okay, it's bold, you know, it's uppercase. We can then look at things like around the button. So we can see here, we've got 8 padding all around for the small button. And then, you know, we would actually bring this into like this sizes. So obviously we've got PX, PY, so the padding left and padding right, and just doing it that way. So yeah, we've got the font sizes set. And that was kind of what I was doing yesterday. What I got onto today was variants, and it did require a bit of thinking about how things were going to work. But what I'm going to do first is just show you how I initially translated things to this Storybook file. So this is the buttons.stories.js file. This is our first story that we've written. So like I mentioned, because we are actually customizing the default theme, we can actually bring in this button from Chakra, and it's going to have the styles that we have set in this theme folder here. So all of these things that we set, it will naturally inherit that. So we don't have to add them as props. They're already on this button. But obviously we still have the power to customize this. So we can just bring it directly in from Chakra, which is what I've done. And then, like I said before, you have to export default to actually, for something to actually come out. And the export default takes a few different keys. So it takes a title. And this is what I was referring to earlier with like the naming system. So you can do whatever you want with this. But for me, I just find it easier to have something a bit more organized. And just to note as well, like whatever the first like name that you have before the first slash, like, so no matter how long this gets, whatever's before the first slash will always be the top like level thing, which is why when you see style guide on here, that's why it's got like this nice big, you know, fancy text to help separate this between this and the example. So that top level thing is always, sorry, wrong file. That top level thing is always gonna be the one that stands out. But under that we have components, and then we've got button. I put default here. I think we can just leave it as button, to be honest. And if we save that, not to worry. I remember the first time I saw it, I freaked out. So have I broken something? No, it's fine. You just we're just like taken to a path that no longer existed, essentially. So that's a bit better. So yeah, essentially we have the title. We then have the component. So we have to give it obviously the component in question, the component that we want it to show. And it has to match the name of whatever you bring in or whatever you're referencing. You can't just sort of make something up. And then we have arg types, which we'll come back to in a moment, because that obviously gets a bit extensive. But right now we're focused on actually, how we can see this in Storybook. So we have this like template, this whole args thing that you're probably seeing. So what this basically does is like, this allows us to use this kind of template where you can like set. So as you can see, like it's almost the same way that we pass in props to it, right? You got args here. It's kind of similar, like in that sense. So when we write down here primary.args, we can put in anything that like Chakra can take as a prop. It will allow. And why this is cool is as you can see down here, you can actually see it. You can create like a secondary. You can create all these different types of things, and just by changing the args, you have all these different properties, and you can, look at these different components side by side. So, I think we might even end up doing that. We'll see how we get along, but we might end up doing that for just, clearer sort of visual clarity on the differences between each variant per se. But what I've done for now is that I've actually just created the variants in a way that allows us to see all the different states within one button. And this is convenient now, but in terms of actually seeing everything all in one place at once, it might not be the best thing. So we'll see how we get on. So going back to, I'm going to close that. Going back to the theme, we have variants. So what I've essentially done is just mapped out all the different styles we need for each different main sort of type. So obviously primary, if we look on here, and this is what I mean between, like, this is why it's nice to kind of just be working in this way between Figma and Storybook right now, because, you know, you're basically kind of just going back to that single source of truth and getting that value. You know, you're not having to think of things, and sort of you're not doing any more design thinking right now. It's like, no, we're just literally taking values from where they've been set. If there's any decisions to be made or anything to be changed, that comes from design, and then, you know, that will be followed through in the code. That will be updated in the code. And I did speak last time about potentially using the Figma API. I'm still definitely looking into this. I'm not sure how much time I'll get this week because I'm back to work tomorrow, so we'll have to see, you know, how we get on with that. But it would be cool to have something like dynamically generate our tokens for us, so that like I said yesterday, for example, we could run a script and each time it would update the styles that we're calling from the Figma API and like regenerate, you know, this file for us where we can take these values from and pull them into our theme. Like, we'll, you know, it's definitely doable. I know that. It's just, yeah, sort of depends on the time that it's going to take to figure out for us to figure out how to do this. So we'll give it a go and we'll see how it goes. But like I was saying, so you have primary, you've got secondary, and then, you know, of course, you've got each of these different states now in each one. And I'll just show you how we can essentially do that. So primary, as you can see, it was outlined button. So I give it a border color, you know, give it a standard color. And then we have, so like I was saying, the states now we've got these nice like different states you can use in Chakra, the same way in CSS, right? You've got hover, but you can use them in line similar to the way you would in SAS. So underscore hover, underscore active, underscore disabled. And we have, like, I was just working back and forth between this and the Figma file, going back, seeing like, okay, what's the hover value? Like literally clicking on this, having a look, okay, cool. Going to the disabled value, okay, so like what was actually the colors that I used for this, okay, cool. And it was essentially that process back and forth. But like I said, like having something that is a bit more like automated can really just speed up that process. So we'll see how it goes. I also created some primary themed buttons as well that take into account our like primary and secondary colors. Primary and secondary colors based on whether it's light or dark, not in terms of actual hierarchy, essentially. So that should be cool as well. Is there anything else we added? I just added some config stuff that's just very basic about using the color mode. It's not too important. So it also, you can give it some default props. So this is just what the button will look like out of the box when you first bring it in. It has to obviously, like, you know, you'll need a default style. So we just give it a size of medium, variant of primary, straightforward enough. So that is, yeah, pretty much what I did in terms of the theme file. And then when it came to the stories, so here I've got children. So this is just pointing to whatever's inside the button, which is obviously text, as we can see here. We're just using a string as well. We've got medium size, variant primary, is active false, and is disabled false. So you might be wondering, like, okay, what's the use of that? So this is where controls come in, and controls, I believe, only work where we have like this args thing. But like, I think if you're just trying to export const like this thingy and you're trying to do things in that more of a sense, it might not, or I don't think it does work, but it will work with args. But if we come back up here, so you can see we've got arg types, right? So that's like the third key on here. We've got title, we've got component, and then we've got archetypes. And what's nice is that like we can take any of the properties that we're passing in to Chakra, anything that this button will like recognize usually. So whether it's size, whether it's even font size, like whether it's is active, variant, you know, all these different things we can take into account. So we just name them. We name them as an object, and then inside, then we then put the control, and then inside the control we can specify the type of control we want. And the options essentially are the, you know, what we're going to switch between essentially. So I think the best example of this is probably this variant one. So we're using a select. So that's actually going to, you know, that's going to give us a select component to use. And our options are primary, secondary, primary themed, and secondary themed. And I'll just kind of show you what that looks like. Probably is the best way to describe it. So if you look down on this right side, let me just try and bring this in for you. Yeah, I think we're good. So you can probably just see it there. Like there's a little arrow. Yeah, you can see it like there. There's like a little arrow, right? And that's essentially the select that we created with the controls. And our current is primary, but we can change this to be secondary. We can change it to be primary themed. And we can change it to be secondary themed. So, like I said, the primary and secondary thing, like that's supposed to be light and dark mode. For some reason, like this is sticking to dark mode. I've got a feeling it's because of my Chrome settings. I think it's natively like using some kind of dark mode or something similar. So I don't know. Oh wow, that's good. So we can also say is disabled, is active, all these cool things just by using controls. We've also got some radio button controls for the size, so we can say small, we can say medium, and we can say large. That also offers like a nice functionality for us. Right. So yeah, that's that. And what I want to do now actually is add something just to show you the general kind of idea here. So what I want to add is an icon, right? Because we want some buttons to be able to have icons. So, you know, we can say icon. So let's think about this here. Excuse me. So I'm going to say, I'm just going to put left icon. And so I'm just trying to think. Let's go to the docs and let's see. I feel like icon wise, we have to bring in like another library or something, like another chakra. Let's have a look. I'm going to search for it because I'm lazy. Right, so let's add that. We'll just add it in for now. We can always get rid of this later if we don't need it. Let's copy that code just for speed. So I'm just going to create another terminal. Oh, I didn't mean to do npm I. Yes. Yarn add. Cool. Okay, so we all done. Okay, so what I'm gonna do, just for this really, is just bring in So set chakra. What do we want? Like, I just wanted to find what the names of these things are. Okay, let's find like a nice cool icon. Let's do a check circle because they're just always cool. Love a good old check circle. Right, and so what I'm going to do, left icon, we should be able, I'm just trying to think. Let's have a look at, because what I'm thinking is this. I'm thinking more like to create something. So here you can see we've got is active and is disabled, right? I'm thinking more if there's something where we can say like with icon, or like if it has an icon, and then we can kind of potentially work with that. Let's have a look. Let's have a look. Let's go down to the bottom. So at the bottom of each of these files, by the way, just in case this is helpful for anyone, they usually will have like the whole list of like props. They have the name of the props, the type of prop it is, the description if there is one, and like its default value if there is one. So, excuse me. So we've got, okay, if added. That's cool. Okay, it doesn't specify like whether you can say with icon, but that doesn't really matter. Can we do like some conditional in here? True. I don't know if we could do this. Oh damn. I don't know if we can do this. True. No? I'm really trying something out here, aren't I? Let's see though. Right. It wasn't happy with that. So yeah, as you can see, it's not cool with that. Object's not valid. Okay. No, I get it. I actually get it. Well, let's. I'll keep doing that. Check. Let's see if is that gonna work. Maybe. Oh wait, hold on a minute. Right. Yeah, it's definitely not. Definitely wasn't right. Oh, so actually, in which case, yeah, we just have to approach it the same way. Sorry, I should have known this from before. Oh no, I don't think we have to do that, but we do have to do this. I think. Don't know, to be honest. Yeah. So you can see we're getting the check mark now, and look at that. It's responding quite nicely to everything. Reacts to the disabled, reacts to active. Nice. Nice, reacts to the theme. Like, so you see, like, this is really cool. We haven't done anything else to, like, you know, to so like what we can do, like, essentially is have all these different, we can create all of these stories separately for all of these things, because obviously we've got the sizes, but we could, you know, we could, if we wanted to actually have a button for each of these different parameters we're controlling. We could have a button for something, you know, just a small button on its own, a medium button, a large button, just with their default styling. And then we could have buttons that, you know, show the variance. So primary, secondary, primary themed, secondary themed. and showing both the light and dark modes of those themes, you know, perhaps, you know, showing them in their active states, in their disabled states. So it really is like pretty powerful in that sense, and hopefully, you know, anyone that watches this gets a better idea of how, you know, you can really use Storybook to your advantage. So left icon, we're bringing this in. Yeah, what I'm kind of curious about is if we say true, we say this is going to be that, or else otherwise it would just be null. So let's see how it likes it. Okay. Right, I don't know if that's working as such. That's fine. We'll leave that for now, but like, yeah, you can just see that that's just how kind of quickly we got something up and running here. Yeah, we didn't have to add anything else. It kind of just takes care of itself, which is really nice. And like all the hover states still work perfectly. Like primary theme can come here, so that hover state still. That might not be the hover state we actually want for that. It definitely isn't. I don't know why I said that. It definitely isn't. So you've got that as well. Yeah, it's cool. So let's have a look. What else we got to do? We'll hopefully be getting like more and more into this as we kind of go along, and hopefully it'll become a bit more familiar for people as well. So yeah, that's kind of the main thing I wanted to really show is just how quick it is and how efficient it is. Like we haven't, like I said before, like this button doesn't really exist outside of here. Like it's kind of just in here. But what's nice is that we can test this. We can actually add like some accessibility add-ons, which is what I'm going to do right now, because I remember I forgot to do this. So let's go to our documentation. Let's go to essential add-ons. I think it's somewhere here, perhaps. I might be wrong. Well, let's go to add-ons. Yeah, okay. So cool. Okay, accessibility. So we're actually looking for it's accessibility add-on. So okay. So here we go. We can copy this yarn add storybook / add-on -- dev. Okay. Cool. And while that's busy downloading, it's going to tell us that we need to add this line to our module.exports. Right, so let's go to that. So that's all done now. We can go to our main, and we can see here it's right here. So we just need to add it to this array. Essentially, oh my bad. Yeah, I think forget it assumes. Right, cool. And what else do we have to do? Okay, so hopefully it should just work for us right now. I don't know, maybe it takes a refresh. I don't really know. Cool. So it's not going to be under that. Let's have a look. I wonder if it's under essential add-ons. I don't know if it's considered an essential add-on. Probably not. So let's go back actually again. Oh, absolutely butchered that name. Storybook U1Y add-on. This is like the main one. Okay. I don't know if we'll get there. Okay. How are we doing for time? Okay, so we're just hitting over an hour now, so I'm going to start, rounding off kind of shortly. Like I said, I wanted to keep time today. So we've done a bit better with time. It's still not like optimal, but it's all good. I think we've done all right. I feel like I'm gonna try and just kill the server and try and spin it up again and see how we get on. Might be handy to do that. Let's see, let's test it out. Yeah, okay, we just had to. So I think whenever whenever you install add-ons and stuff, it's just best to restart the server. So we can see now got accessibility, and we can see like what's cool is that it tells you if there's any violations. It tells you the passes you have, and these are all things that are in line with the WCAG guidelines. It tells you if there's violations, if you've got passes, and if anything's incomplete. So it's quite nice. We've got everything passing right now. Well, everything that's on here is passing right now. And it tells you as well. This is what's really nice. If there's any violations, it will tell you what that is. You can go and click more info, and then it will take you to like a link. So as you can see there, it's taking us to a link where it will be explained in depth, which is really great. I think this is honestly a great add-on. It's a great feature to help us create more accessible components before they even hit like the page, like before you even, because like I said, this kind of is almost existing separately from the app right now, because we haven't actually, like, this isn't on a page yet. We haven't brought this into anywhere but Storybook. So we can, if there's anything that we need to fix accessibility wise, we can work on that here. We can work on, essentially, implementing or changing or updating our styling, our styles for things to be more accessible, and then we can move forward with it. So that's what's really nice. It kind of gives us this little tool that we can use here. So yeah, we have a couple of things here. It kind of tells you the level as well, which is nice. So yeah, it's got color contrast here as well, and every ID attribute value is unique as well. So yeah, we're passing on those, which is really great. That's really good. So this is another reason why I think, obviously this is nice to have this nice interactive button here, but when it comes to obviously testing these things individually, it might make more sense to have these things all separated out. in terms of like, because we have a different color here, and you can see right now that color contrast like isn't good. So you can see that's going to come up as a violation, and we see it here. It ensures the contrast between the foreground and background, and it doesn't meet it. This is supposed to be dark theme anyway, so like if we go to this and change it to dark, right, and hopefully now if we like just come back onto this, it clears itself up. So now it's passing again. So yeah, you know, that's it's quite a powerful like add-on that we have here, because we can just test, because we also, you know, have the I'm just gonna cross that off. I actually don't I don't know how to get that back. I'll find a way, but it's probably good because I can show you now like what we can do as well. I'm not sure if we can do it in here. I'm sure we can. We can use the Axe Dev Tools. Well, there's a lot of issues here. Let's have a look. Sufficient color contrast. Oh, okay, so that's stuff in here. Well, that's not me. But like, you know, I'm guessing it will. Sufficient color contrast, right? So we're getting that come up now. And now we can inspect the element. Okay, so that's not that one. Okay, so that's not our one still. And you can like cycle through as well. What we can do is highlight, which I find super helpful. So, okay, I thought ours would turn up eventually, but like it's obviously not turned up. Guess they're just not bothered. Oh, 1 of 17. Okay, wow. Okay, well, I don't think it shows up. So how do I get back? How do I get my thing back? Jeez. I'm guessing there's a way, like, I don't really just want to start clicking stuff. This is cool as well, so you can simulate different visual impairments as well. I didn't actually know they had this feature. I don't know if that's a add-on of the accessibility add-on. Might be, because I don't know if I saw it there before. That's really cool if it is, actually. Wow. I don't know where I'm going to find the... It's interesting. Anything I know that I can do is probably just to refresh it. No, I don't. I don't even know how I did that. I literally just like dragged it down because I was like, this thing's in the way, and then it's like, see ya. That's cool. You can apply a grid if that's, you know, something that would help you. Got these different sizes as well, of course, which is always helpful. Oh, okay, here we go. It's down here. Show add-ons. Right, so yeah, that's cool, isn't it? Like, you know, we can come and see, you know, if there's any. So it tells us the violations, and it's all independent to this component. So, but that's why, you know, that's why I think it could be a good idea to actually split these all up so that you don't have to keep on jumping in between each one. Because if you've got a violation on quite a few of your components, but you know they're only changing based on your controls. Like, don't get me wrong, the controls are really cool, but it's going to be a bit difficult to keep track of like what you need to work on and what needs fixing. But then again, like I kind of, obviously that's why in the design phase, this is why I think about these things, and that's why I'm using the Axe plugin, so that, you know, even over here, let me find. So when I was like, you know, messing around with these visual ideas, that's why I've kind of used that Stark plugin with, you know, this check contrast, because this tells you like there and then, it gives you a second, and then it tells you, you know, the score, and you can see if things are passing. So I already had an idea of what was passing and what wasn't, because that had already been thought of in the design phase. But, you know, maybe some, you've made some small changes to like the palette or some certain tones, and perhaps something's just out, or something's just a bit too bright, or light in color compared to the background. It offers you the opportunity to also check it here, which I think is really great. So it's really, really nice feature. So I'm glad that we got that installed. And yeah, this is our default button with all of the styles essentially that we have in here. So yeah, that's kind of where we're at right now. So next, or I suppose going forward from here, I suppose we can work on potentially work on the inputs next, and start to think about creating these different types for the input, and then I think after that, well, actually text styles. Actually, I think what I'm going to be doing, because it's going to be a busy week ahead, so I might not always get the opportunity, or I might not have the energy to stream it outright. And just for speed as well, obviously I work a bit quicker when I'm not streaming, and I'm trying to push on a bit more now. I will of course try and stream sort of whenever I've got the time. But if not, what I'll do in each stream, just like I did today, this is probably a bit more of an informative one, but I'll probably just be doing that. If I'm not on, I will just be informing you about what I've been working on, essentially. So that's what I've been working on, really, just setting the base styles for the button in the theme, over here, and then bringing that button into Storybook, and yeah, setting all these different variants, types and stuff on it. But I think next time what we'll be looking at, if I haven't done it already, if I've done it already, then I'll demonstrate what I've done. If not, then we'll walk through it. And it's going to be essentially using this idea of args, and we can actually see something quite cool where you can reuse like some styles. So we'll set some base styles here. We'll be able to reuse them across all of our other stories. And what we'll then do is we'll break up those stories into their different types and states, so we can actually test them in a bit more of a clearer way, so that we're not having to keep changing back and forth between conditionals and radio buttons and things like that. We'll actually have them quite nicely laid out, and also from a documentation standpoint, it's a lot more clearer because you can just see everything laid out for you. And then I think we can start messing with the text styles if I haven't done that already as well. I don't think there's going to be much change to those. I kind of mentioned this before, that I pretty much mostly use Chakra's default thing, but I still like the idea, because obviously Chakra has a heading and then it has a text component, so it's just those two components. But for me, I have specific styles based on the H1, H2, H3, H4, and a couple of the different styles around body, emphasize strong, smaller text. And so for me, I think it'd just be nice to actually have a bit more context around that, and just have those be specific, so that we don't have to keep on rewriting that CSS. The whole idea here is to try and abstract as much as we can away from our returns when we're writing JSX, so that we just have a bit of a clearer we essentially have a clearer file. We're trying to make the file as clear as possible, for the reason that we're going to be opting to be writing longer return statements, because on most of my previous projects, I was actually going the other way with trying to write small statements, and what that ended up in is essentially breaking out my code into different modules. And Kenzie Dodds obviously touched on this, and he was kind of the inspiration behind why I'm taking the other route now, about how this can sometimes promote the issue of prop drilling, where you have all your components in these different places, and now suddenly all of these different components that need to share the same data. It becomes a bit more difficult, because it's that data has so many dependencies now. There's so many different components depending on it, and it's hard that maybe if some of these components need to unsubscribe from that data, it then becomes a bit messy. But if they're all in kind of the same return or in the same space, you don't have to be you don't have to pass this between different files, and you don't have to bring in the props through different components. So that's kind of the idea behind the CSS, because obviously Chakra is, it's the CSS that we write, or the styling that we write is inline. And so for me, I actually really enjoy writing this way. But I would say personally, I think the caveat to it is the fact that sometimes, it can be difficult to know what's going on in your return statements, just because there's so much on the page visually. So as much as we can abstract out into our, especially in terms of design tokens, as much as stuff we can abstract, then it kind of gives us a bit more of a kind of clearer environment into which we can add logic and all of the other stuff without sort of, trying to figure out where things are. So, yeah, I think main points for next time is going to be breaking out this button here into some different stories, so that we can actually see them all the different variants of it visually, just like we do, or just like we have in this Figma file. Essentially, we'll have them all kind of displayed, as well as the themed colors as well. And then we'll be looking at just the text styling and any changes we need to make to the text styling, and creating my heading and stuff like that. I'll probably do that behind the scenes maybe tonight, and I'll just update everyone hopefully tomorrow if I can get on. We'll have to see how work goes. If I'm not too tired, I'll jump on and do another one. But I think probably on that next stream we'll look at doing the inputs, and I'll take you through that process essentially. So yeah, and then we can actually start getting into building out pages. And what I'll also be doing is actually setting up the repos. I'll be setting up the development branch, and then we'll create a feature branch once all of the kind of base styles and themes are all set up. I kind of want that set up first, and then we can really get into things. So yeah, that's the idea now. So yeah, I will be kind of shooting off now, and hopefully I'll be back tomorrow. I'll be updating on my socials, so check those out. You can find those on the bottom left corner. Twitter is probably the best place to find any updates on when I'll be going live. I mean, recently I've just been doing it at the time. I've been like, okay, I'm live now. But like I said, the kind of getting people in is not the like the promotion side of it's not really the that's not my key focus right now. It's kind of just actually getting these documented. So right, great. I'm going to end it there, and thanks again, guys. I hope this one was informative. So catch you in the next one.